What's up YouTube, Redbeard's Garage, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to tune up the go-karts because Little Red has needed the chain greased and tensioned up for quite a while. You can see it's pretty loose, and we've got the motor pushed as far forward as possible. So what we're going to do is put another half-inch nut up under each side to lift it up an inch, and that should give it enough tension, another half-inch worth, to get all this slack out of the chain. And the chain's super stiff, so I'm going to soak it in some oil. And yeah, so let's take the 4 bolts off the motor, and we'll probably end up having to run down to the co-op and buy some longer bolts as well. Okay, we got to take this chain off real quick, and I always use a set of pliers. These are small, flat-headed, flat-nose pliers. And if you can see, there's the master link right there. Now the open end of it, I always get this on the that rivet in the chain and put it on the end of the master link and just squeeze, and it pops it right off. And then you can slide the lock side on. Let me rotate this to where I can pull it off. Then all you do is pull this side of the master link off. It's kind of hard getting it off sometimes. So we got that side piece off, and then we can just push the rest of the link on through. And I'm guessing this is so hard where it hasn't been greased or anything. And then we got the chain off. Okay, we're going to have to take this air filter housing off, and 10mm nuts on each side of it. Now we got to take this breather line off as well. And then there's a breather tube on the valve cover you got to pop off. Now we got that air box off, and now we can get to the linkage. Okay, y'all, we got to do to take the linkage of the throttle off is loosen this screw here. This holds down the outer casing of the throttle cable, and then put I believe this is a 10mm wrench to hold this eyelet still, and then take off the Phillips head that's in, or loosen it so we can slide the cable out. Once we do that, we can pull this engine off. We got that throttle cable off. Now we can just lift the engine off and go ahead and go get our nuts and bolts. As you can see, I put these half-inch nuts under the motor to lift it up. Actually, they was already there when I got it, but I'm just going to go get another one to stack it up and make it a full inch, and that should give us enough room to play with to slide the engine all the way forward and give the chain enough tension. Looks like the sprocket's still in pretty good shape. I am going to count the teeth of this sprocket and go ahead and see how much a new one is, just to keep one on hand just in case it ever wears out. And I may have another one with the drum brake on it, and if I do, we may try to go ahead and convert this to a drum brake today. This is my favorite spot in Sweetwater. Here, getting some bolts. So let's see what we can find. Okay, we went and got these bolts down at the Ace Hardware. Now, one thing I'm going to do before I put this motor back on is drain all the oil. All these motors have a little bolt right there, if this would freaking focus, but it has that bolt right there at the end of the motor you can drain it out of. Or if you got the motor off on a workbench, you can just take the cap off and tilt the motor over. That's what I normally do, so I don't got to get any tools out or anything. So we're going to drain this oil because I'm sure it's dirty. We put quite a bit of use on this motor since I built it. So I'm going to get my oil pan and drain this oil out real quick, and we'll put the motor back on. Okay, we got that motor put all back on Little Red. Got those metal spacers underneath. I wish I'd have got some washers to go underneath of those spacers and above them. But, you know, it is what it is. I'm probably going to end up making a metal spacer, just like a thick piece of aluminum maybe or something, to go back across the whole back and across the whole front, instead of using those those metal like tube style spacers. But I do believe this clutch is about shot because it wants to stick a lot. And I think this was a used clutch when I put it on here. I can't remember, but I have a brand new clutch over there somewheres. But we're going to take this off the workbench in a minute and take it down the road and see how the clutch does. I got that chain really tight. I mean, there's no slack in it whatsoever. Probably a little bit too tight, but the way this go-kart is, I didn't want to take any chances with having it too loose because it wants to skip really easy. So I may take it down the road. I did change the oil in it. The oil did look pretty bad. That's not all the oil, but that's most of it. There was some more fluid in that bucket before, but it was like a gray color. Now when your oil is a gray color, that's obviously metal wear, so that's like bearing, and it could be that was the first oil change of this motor, so it could be just flushing all that material out from where the motor is built. But it's never good to see gray colored oil, so I like to change the oil in these things after about 10 hours of use. You know, after 10 hours of ride time, go ahead and change the oil. It only holds half a quart, so it ain't like you're going to be changing the oil all the time. And I always use synthetic 1030, but all I had was standard Castrol GTX 1030, so that's what I used in it. I will be going and buying some synthetic to put in this thing, and that just keeps the motor extra clean because as you know, these motors don't have an oil filter. But as you know, these motors don't have an oil filter, so they have no way of filtering out all the oil, of course, so that dirty oil just stays in there. So you need to change it quite often, like every 10 hours or so, depending on how hard you ride it. But let's get this off this little workbench and take it down the road. And we also bought some NGK spark plugs that fell off. But for this Skittles. Now what Skittles does is if you leave the gas on, it'll flood the carburetor and fill the cylinder head up with gas. Now I didn't turn the fuel off last night. I had forgot after riding it and filled the whole entire combustion chamber up with fuel. But a couple pulls and it pushed it all out the exhaust, and I'm pretty sure it fouled my plug. So from now on I need to remember to turn the fuel off and make sure I do that after every ride. And I'll probably go ahead and turn the fuel off and let it run until it burns all the fuel out of the carburetor. But yeah, so we're going to put a new plug in this as well. Of course, everybody probably knows how to put a plug in. You just pull the spark plug wire and take the plug out there and put a new one in. It's pretty straightforward. So yeah, let's throw a new spark plug in this one and take this one down the road real quick. Okay, so I took old Skittles and Little Red down the road. They seem to be doing really good. The clutch keeps sticking on Little Red. It's probably just worn out. I mean, I think that clutch was used when we put it on that go-kart, but I can't remember. But the spark plug seems to be working a little bit better in this now that it's got a new one, and I just got to remember to shut that fuel off because it just fills that engine up. And I'm not quite sure what causes that in these carburetors, but we're going to do a little bit of investigation in it later. I mean, either way, I mean, these motors have been known to do that, so you just need to make sure you shut the fuel off when you're not riding it. Little Red doesn't do it. It's the new Hemi motor. I mean, this is an older motor, but still, it shouldn't be doing it. So I'd like to find out the cause, just so I could answer that question for people that may have it. But I put some octane booster in both of them, and it seemed to make a difference. It was the 104. There it is. The red jug right there. You can see it, octane booster 104. So I put a couple shots in each gas tank, and to be honest, I mean, it seems like it did make a difference, but you know, it could be just making me think it is. But the screws came out the top of this muffler. If you can see those two indentions, that's supposed to have two Phillips head screws, kind of like that. So now it has a little bit of an exhaust leak out of it. It kind of sounds pretty good, actually. It just has a little bit of a backfire when it's idling down, and it's just got a little bit of a spit sound to it. But I'll probably throw some screws in it. I guess it must have vibrated them off. But I know with that new chain, as you can see, the chain's all tensioned up nice and doesn't have any slack in it no more. And having that new chain on it, because that other one's getting pretty dry and getting kinked up, which I'm going to soak it in synthetic oil just to break all that grime out of the chain links, and it should be fine to keep using it. So I'll have two chains for Little Red. But with that new chain, I'm telling you, it'll spin the far out of that tire taking off. And I mean, you can break it loose around. Of course, it's one wheel peel, and it's pushing those tiny pizza cutter, so it ain't like it's doing much, but it's still, you can tell an instant difference. It gets up to 40 mile an hour so fast now, it's ridiculous. But I rode Little Red down, probably about a mile down the road to a gas station to get me some dip. And I had a crowd of people standing around it talking to me about it. Now, one older man kept asking me how much I wanted for Little Red, and I told him I liked it quite a bit. The reason I like Little Red so much is because of the size of it. You can just throw it in the back of a truck real quick. And I used to take it to work with me every day, and I'd get it out at work because I work at the Ford dealership, so we have a big lot at front and back. And I'd take it out back and ride it quite a bit. But now, I mean, we went on a 10-mile trip, as you'll see the video coming up today. We went on a 10-mile trip, and it was just a blast. And now it's going to be even better because the chain ain't skipping teeth. And Skittles should run a little bit better with that plug. That plug did look a little rough on it, but Skittles just a pile of hunk of junk. I'm telling you, I would love to put new hubs and a new axle and axle bearing. See, with those hubs welded on, I can't change out the axle bearings because the hubs are welded on. I can't pull them off to slide the axle bearings off. So that's the only problem with it. So I'll probably put Skittles up for sale, even though I like the frame quite a bit. And if it doesn't sell, then we'll do a different build on it. But if it sells, then goodbye Skittles, that's for sure. But me and my wife is finally getting this freaking landscaping done. She went to go get more of this this crush and run, I guess it's called, or no, I don't guess it's crush and run, but this thinner gravel junk that you use to level out the stones. So we're gonna have to do 2 layers high in the front, and then it'll get, you know, wider as it goes down. But we've been needing to edge this off and put some fill dirt or some topsoil in, and then put some mulch on top of it. And of course those stones are just there just for the meantime to where we wouldn't walking through mud when it rains. But you can see where the ground is not level with the bottom of the concrete, so we need to get the dirt, the topsoil that we're bringing in, level about halfway up the concrete or so, maybe level at the ground with it, and then pack it down real good, and then put the mulch on top. But yeah, got a lot of work to do. And Hunter Rabies here. Hunter's pulling up, so I'm gonna give him this drive shaft and get some of this landscaping finished.